This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 24/7 Buff Pandemonium presents the K-Gun Report, Season 3, Episode 4. I'm Jarrod. Joining me tonight, we have Swank.
Yo!
Scott.
Hey! Yeah!
And special guest, Nick Fiero. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
What's up?
Hey, Nick,
What's
why
up,
don't
Nick?
you let everybody know where they can find you and what you're all about.
Okay, well, they can find me at si.com/NFL/Bills. And what I'm all about, I don't know. I'm about a lot of things, but I covered the Eagles mostly for 17 years, switched over to the Bills at the beginning of last year's postseason, for the playoff run. And I've been doing them ever since for si.com. But always been covering, the NFL for basically 20 years. And I've taken a particular interest in the Bills, from the time Sean McDermott first took over, because my relationship with him goes back to the early 90s when he was in high school.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For
You were
those
telling
of
us
you
a
who
little
don't
bit.
know,
Yeah. Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
For those of you who don't know, you check out our 24/7 Buff Pandemonium page. Nick Fiero, if you recognize the name, he actually is a nice little content builder for many pages. But we love his stories on our pages. They're good reads, quick reads, easy reads, and he talks a lot about our Buffalo Bills, and we love the stories, Nick. So thank you for that.
Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Swank, you about to say something?
Yeah, I was, but Scott walked all over me, and that's exactly what this show is all about. No, I just wanted to say what's up to some of our regulars we got here. We got Jim Graham, we got Rob Mullen back again, Mike Voigt, we got William Book. I've never seen that name before. Thanks for checking out
Welcome,
the Kagan
William.
Report, man. Gregory Dornbush, we got Jarrod Rod, we got Lonnie Cook, Buffalo Spartan.
This is Sparta.
We got Alberto Rivera Jr., John Johns, Joey Hatch, Troy Pedito, all the best of the 24/7 Buff family.
Alberto Rivera says, "Hey Nick from the Lehigh Valley."
Oh, well, hi back. I know there's Bills fans all over the place.
Yeah.
There are.
It's crazy in this group. We got people from New Mexico and Canada and California,
Arkansas,
Florida, all sorts of places. Awesome.
So Jared,
before we go ahead, Scott.
we got a jersey back there. We got to give away today.
That's what I was just gonna do. Before we get into today's show, we were gonna do the Pandemonium Wheel of Destiny spin on Sunday sessions, but somebody forgot the names. But I got them down today. So before we get going, we're gonna do the Pandemonium Wheel of Destiny spin for whoever left a comment on season 2, episode 3, and to win that Levi Wallace jersey.
It's up.
Nick, you want to do the countdown? Send us into that wheel spin.
Okay. 10? Yeah, we start at 10?
No,
20. Go ahead.
20. 19. 18.
Start at 8. Start at 8. Go.
8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Ignition.
Spin that
There it is.
wheel.
There it is.
Keep going.
That's some quality counting, Nick.
Yeah. A few more beers, I won't be able to count down from 10.
We got Ken O'Daniel. Ken O'Daniel won that Levi Wallace jersey.
There you go, Ken. Ken O'Daniel.
Congratulations, Ken.
He's a supporter for sure. He's been on our show for a long time. Congrats, Ken.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Send us your your address. DM us your address, and we'll send it out to you as soon as possible. Awesome. All right, guys. Want to get started?
Yeah, let's do this.
Actually, I forgot to do one thing really quick. We got to wish Mr. Gregory Russo a happy 22nd birthday, Gregory.
Happy birthday. Cheers.
Way to be older, group.
I tell you what, it's weird that these guys are half our age, or half my age almost.
Half your age, yeah.
All right,
Don't
number
we
one,
learn?
quick, we're going to touch on a release that happened earlier this week, and that is Christian Wade. He has officially been released by the Buffalo Bills, so we're going to wish him good luck. I kind of wish that we saw him play on the regular season, but he didn't really get the chance to. But wherever he ends up, I wish him luck.
Well, I'll just step in really quick and say, I mean, this was your homer pick of the year 3 years running that he was going to come out and do something, and I really like him. I like him as a guy. I think he was really fun to watch in those preseason games, but I just don't think that there was ever anything to my eye that was going to make sure that he was going to even get a sniff at a spot on the roster, especially now. I mean, as the years went on, it just seemed like it was further and further. So it's a bummer to see him go. It's probably the only reason he's gone is probably because they don't get a free spot on the practice spot for him anymore. So it's a bummer, but maybe somebody will pick him up, you know? Who knows?
He's, I mean, the thing is, I think he's 30 years old now, and
Yeah.
at some point, you have to think, he's not going to be much of a factor anyway, even if we do use him. And I wish I could tell you more about him, but whenever you try to switch sports, that's the kind of thing that happens. It's rare when you can really kind of make an impact in that second sport, especially converting over at that age. I covered the Eagles, and they got Jordan Mailata, from rugby, but he was still pretty young when he started that conversion. And and even with all that, and with all that great athleticism and having that naturally big body that just you can't coach that. It took 3 years,
Yeah. Yep. And
the Bills' offense is something else too. I don't know if Wade is planning on going somewhere else and trying to train and get on their roster there. But with the type of offense the Bills have, Singletary and Moss are both highly graded pass blockers. And, you take for granted as a running back your running skills when you go to a team that depend on those blocking skills and passing schemes. And that's a whole completely different part of football for a lot of running backs coming out of college. If you can run the hell out of the ball, but if you can't protect the quarterback, you're going to be looking somewhere else. And I think, unfortunately for Wade, that's the kind of scenario he fell into, learning the offensive passing scheme and the passing block scheme. That's a lot more difficult than a lot of people think it is. And unfortunately for him, he couldn't cut it, but I do wish him the best of luck. Obviously, he tried, made it any further than any of us did, you know what I mean? And he just came from a completely different sport. So good luck, Christian. I rooted for you. I thought maybe kickoff return potentially could have been something for him, but just couldn't happen.
Yeah, the protecting the quarterback as a running back is really an underrated thing, but coaches look at it, and that's the downfall of a lot of running backs in the league, and why a lot of guys don't play. That you say, wow, this guy's pretty good. You see him in the preseason, you see him in some games. How come he's not playing more? Well, it's because they don't trust him.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got to protect the guy they're spending a lot of money on. That's for sure. Now, there's a couple freak athletes. You're a freak athlete if you make any professional sport, but there's only a handful that have made multiple sports. And, just off the top of my head, Deion Sanders, you got Bo Jackson. Those are just the two. But
Michael Jordan.
Well, would you count that?
I think you meant Brian Jordan, Atlanta Falcon, Jordan. Atlanta Brave, too.
Yeah, there you go, Brian Jordan. There you go. So you got to be a special freak of athlete.
Listen, man, my sister played soccer and volleyball.
I'd like to say something about Michael Jordan and that whole thing. I think what he did was amazing because he switched over to baseball at how old was he? 30?
Oh God, yeah, at least
mid-30s maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and they put him at Double-A. Now I don't know about you guys, but you could take any major league player today and don't have him taking at bat for 12 years of his life and then stick him at Double-A. I think they'd be hard pressed to hit 200 the way he did. There were scouts saying that by the end of that year, he was on track to make the majors in another year if he'd have stuck with baseball.
Wow.
He really figured things out. He was a lot better than people give him credit for. Really Double-A, he should have been a rookie ball, but you can't put a guy like that in rookie ball. I think they had to put him at Double-A. It was bad enough that way. He had to ride the bus and all that, but he couldn't do. But I think he handled it really well. It was a slow start, but he figured it out by the end.
The transition you had from baseball to basketball, he did have to play a full basketball game against the Monstars in Space Jam. So just that talent alone to have to go against those guys was pretty impressive too.
Yeah.
I get that totally 100%, Nick. Baseball is a hard sport to begin with, and to be able to go up there and have been thrown into Double-A right off the bat, and who knows what would have happened, but he came back to basketball and did some good things still. So freak athlete Michael Jordan. I never thought we would mention Michael Jordan's name on this, but we did.
If you have your K-Gun Report bingo cards out, Michael Jordan, mark it off.
Dan Gorham said Tim Tebow and he laughed after that, but he did do baseball a little bit and football.
Baseball. I think Jordan Poyer could do it. Jordan Poyer was scouted. I think Russell Wilson was too, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Kyler Murray. Yep.
Kyler Murray.
All right, guys, this is what we're going to start. Fandemonium, we're going to start right off with this because I know this is a hot topic that we've seen in the last couple of days. Doug Whaley's comments about Brandon Beane and what he should be doing with Stephon Diggs. That's a hot topic considering where Whaley is now. I think he's running the XFL. It's like stay in your own league. We'll let our Brandon Beane figure that out. Nick, what's your take on Whaley's comments and Stephon Diggs' future with the Buffalo Bills?
Well, I think they're not too far. I don't think it's going to happen. I've been writing about this, since the start. But I mean, when you look at the Bills' salary cap situation, they have like $3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't have much flexibility anymore. They've already reworked some contracts. Matt Milano, they pushed some money around. That they're going to have to do something, whether it's an extension or just a conversion to bonus with something. With either Tre'Davious White or with him, and I think they got to do something. And so, as they get down toward the draft, Whaley suggested that they might not be able to afford to give him the kind of contract extension that some of these other guys are getting. Maybe they can't. I don't know, but Brandon Beane, you hear him talk at the owners' meeting, saying that we have a great relationship. We call each other directly. They seem to think they're going to get that worked out, and they probably will. But it's always something to keep in the back of your mind, that maybe it could happen. I'm still not seeing it and believing it. But Brandon Beane has surprised us before. We didn't think they were in the running for Von Miller, and all of a sudden they have Von Miller. Last year, nobody thought they were going to be able to keep Matt Milano. They kept Matt Milano. They kept a couple guys that they were supposed to be able to. They were going to be able to get more money elsewhere, and they kept them. So, and it could surprise maybe the other way. But they need to clear out some space this year. I mean, before the draft, because or shortly after, because right now they don't even have enough money to sign their own draft picks.
Right. They need $8.6 million to sign all draft picks if they don't trade any of those away.
Yeah, and that can be done easily enough by moving some things around. But you hear Brandon Beane talking about he doesn't like doing that. Mm-hmm. He doesn't like the restructures because he feels like eventually you're going to have to pay, and he doesn't like just pushing things down the road. But I mean, everybody does it, so I don't know. And there's always loopholes to these salary cap rules that the true GMs get around, and so I don't know that it's really going to be that much of an obstacle. I don't know that I think they could figure this out without having to trade Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I don't really see that as an option this year for sure, because he's got a couple years left anyway, right? And with things progressing the way they are, Josh getting his big money, I could see them pushing it off a year and then approaching Josh and him doing a little restructure for that year, and maybe getting some more people in on that mix and finding some money. And Scott and I were talking before the show started. What's the cap space going up to next year with the
rumor has it, because of this new TV deal, potentially $20 to $30 million for the next 3 to 4 years. It potentially could hit the $300 million mark by 2026, and that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, so
that's a lot of money to play with.
Hopefully between that go ahead.
For a team like the Bills that already has their quarterback signed, sealed, and delivered, that's great news.
Huge. Yeah.
But,
yes.
They can really.
Allen's going to be the 30th ranked paid quarterback by the time all those monies come through.
That's one of the great things about I saw a meme or a tweet earlier today about that, how the best thing about all this is that we have a quarterback, and that is a wonderful thing. I think the big push, or what's making a lot of Buffalo Bills fans upset about this whole Doug Whaley thing is not the message that was sent, what message was sent, but who sent it, right?
Yeah,
I think it's often where the message came from can eke people. So if it came from some other source, then it would have been fine. But the fact that it was Doug Whaley pushes people the wrong way.
It came from a guy that left us $70 million in dead space debt. Came from a guy that really didn't do much as far as draft class. I know he's going to get credit for the 2017 class with Trey White, Milano, Dawkins, and all that stuff. But the only reason the Bills kept him around and fired him a month after the draft is because they didn't want him getting hired anywhere else and leak information. That's basically what it was. He may get credit for bringing in McDermott, but McDermott and him did not have the same philosophy. So McDermott quickly, and obviously the Pagulas quickly decided to go with Brandon Beane. Let me tell you who the previous draft that Whaley was in charge with in 2016. Tell me who's on the team still, other than the guy we just brought back in. Shaq Lawson, Reggie Ragland, Adolphus Washington, Cardell Jones, Jonathan Williams, Colby Listenby, and Kayvon Seymour. None of
It's
those
a lot of
guys.
mumble.
Well, Shaq Lawson's back.
Shaq.
He's back. He's back. But I mean, that's not a very good class at all.
No,
And
that's
true.
that's what Whaley was in charge of. There's a lot of people that say Whaley had a huge thing to do with the current regime because they brought in McDermott and all that stuff. But I'm calling stink on that one. I don't agree with that at all. And as far as Diggs goes, guys, he signed that 5-year, $72 million contract, and that was a huge contract when he signed that. So for the people that are complaining that Diggs should get paid, he signed his big contract. He's got 2 years left in it, and we don't have to worry about it this year. When that cap goes up $30 million next year, then we can start talking about it. But like I said before, if every 3 years, if the market goes up a significant amount and everybody wants to get paid all this money, then they should sign 2-3-year contracts, not the 5-year contracts. So step on the pedal brakes a little bit. I think honestly it will work itself out, but this year's not going to happen. Like, we got $3, like Nick said.
Yeah, for sure.
And we need,
I think $3.19.
yeah, yeah.
We got lunch money in 1998 is what we got. Patrick Hughes says, Jarrod, we don't just have a quarterback, we have the best quarterback. So he wanted to check you on that. And
I agree.
Dan O'Gorman says, out of that list of people you just named off from Whaley's triumphs, who's still in the NFL? Just Shaq?
I want to say Ragland is too, because I feel like I've seen his name.
I don't think I've heard his name. Did he go to Philadelphia at all?
Yeah.
He went to the Chiefs and played linebacker there for a while.
I knew that, but I think did he end up in Philly for a while, Nick? Do you remember?
I don't remember him being there, but I haven't been paying much attention to him for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, since he got drafted. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, the drafts were before this regime came in, before Brandon Beane and John McDermott, they weren't as good as they've been since. That's for sure. And for that matter, the moves that they've made in free agency and whatnot. Not everything has worked out. They had some misses. Everybody does, but less than the previous regime. And this is where they're at now with a loaded roster and one that's probably going to be that way next year too, and the year after. I mean, I think that there was a lot of movement this year.
Yes.
For a team coming off, second consecutive division winner, a Super Bowl contender, they had a lot of movement and they cut some players. Some of them were starters. Darrell Williams, he can play a little. He's gone. They upgraded there too. I mean, because even though Saffold's going to play the left side, but really they replaced essentially Williams with Saffold, and I think it's probably going to be better suited there, and for a lesser cost too. Mm-hmm. And they moved a lot of players around, and I think that they're pretty well set up. I think they have to start looking at the safeties, right? At some point, Hyde and Poyer have been great for 5 years running, but they're both north of 30 now. Maybe in the draft they have to start thinking about their successors here. But really, and who knows what's going to happen at linebacker next year? But they just revamped their whole defensive line. Their offensive line is really a young rising group. Mitch Morse is a veteran, but the other guys, Saffold's a veteran too, but he's only here for maybe a year. They're getting better, and they have, like you said, they have their quarterback, and that trumps all. Mm-hmm. And they will get better wherever they need to be, right? Whether it's at running back. They added a tight end this year, and if O.J. Howard is healthy, that's the big deal with him. Even though he was healthy all last year, he didn't play, but by then 2 guys had passed him on the depth chart in Tampa Bay. But if he's healthy, he's going to be a big contributor for this team.
I believe
He's
that.
going to do some damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Scott's called that already.
Something that they didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think they're going to be better. I can't tell you how much I like the addition of the new offensive line coach, Aaron Cromer. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be really good. When I was in Philly, I became a really big fan of Howard Mudd, the late Howard Mudd, and Cromer is kind of a disciple of his. Mudd believed in not putting linemen into situations that they can't handle, and too often in this league it happens. with offensive line coaches. They ask guys to do vertical sets that they can't do in pass blocking. Yeah, and some of these offensive tackles get their feet tangled. They can't do it, and he won't do that. He'll say jump them. He'll come up with another way. You won't always have to be locked into a vertical set. You can do a short set, and they're going to do, I think, probably more zone blocking. I really like the fact that he's a Mudd disciple, because I think he was the best of all time. Mudd was. So I think that's going to work, not just with the offensive line, but the running game in general, and really even the pass blocking.
Good points.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, I can't wait to see what that line looks like when it's coming up on week 1. That's going to be something else, especially with that coach there that in 2015, I believe in 2016, they led the NFL in rushing with him. So that's going to be great. All right. I want to quickly touch on, this is actually next on my list. Let's talk about more CBs, right? So there's been talk about Stephon Gilmore coming back to Buffalo. And we still are kind of lacking in that position, quote unquote lacking. A lot of us think that CB is going to be our number 25 and what's the next one after that? 30, 40 something. I don't know, next 2 draft picks.
57.
But rumorville, Stephon Gilmore is interested in coming back, but there's also a couple other free agents out there. Let's talk about what you think about Stephon Gilmore. Oh my gosh. Murder his name. Gilmore coming back, but also Kyle Fuller, Xavier Rhodes, Steven Nelson, and Joe Hayden. So what's your thoughts on Gilmore possibly coming back, and do you want him or those other guys? Swank, I'm going to leave with you. Or Nick, go ahead, Nick.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I think Gilmore's probably the guy. Well, he's definitely the guy with the most accomplished resume, and most of all of his best years were away from Buffalo. But from what I understand, it's his wife that's standing in the way, right? She just tweeted out she's not going back to any place she's been.
Right.
So that might rule out Buffalo. But and if he comes back, it would be another one of those 1-year deals, I would think. But that would be good. I think he would work out really well with this team. And but I like there's a lot of other guys out there, like all the guys that you mentioned, I think could be options to really help this team get through this, because it's not so much the second cornerback, it's the first cornerback I'm worried about. Tre'Davious White, when you tear up your knee like that, in Thanksgiving, lots of times, we see it all the time. Guys are not really the same until at least 1 calendar year later. I mean, this whole next season could be a wash for Tre'Davious White. And so I think they have to be extra stocked there. And instead, they're really not. They didn't even make a move to replace Levi Wallace. And no matter how much they like the other guys, Dane Jackson, they're still short in terms of bodies. And so I think they really kind of need to load up there, kind of the way they loaded up at offensive line. I mean, they got 4 guys on the offensive line that are going to be backups who've started a lot of games. And I think that's kind of what they need to do with corner. But I still think some moves might be coming. Those guys are still out there. Like all those guys, they're still out there that you mentioned. And, things could happen in training camp that more guys could become available. So there's really no rush. Being made it a point to say, it's my job to have this team ready by opening day. Right. So there's a lot of time. And so I think something can happen there. But, yeah, I think they got to be, I know that Tre'Davious White is ahead of schedule and everything. But cornerback's a tough position to play coming off of an injury like that, when you have to run and you have to backpedal and you have to react. I mean, it would be a little easier if he was a receiver, but or quarterback. But you're really and even though the Bills play mostly a zone, you're still on an island somewhat, and it's a different deal. It could get in your head. So they have to be careful with him, and they have to. I think they need to kind of get a veteran in there, like a Gilmore or a Hayden. It's funny, if they end up with Hayden at a really good cost, that would be pretty good, right? Because the Steelers got rid of Hayden and they picked up Levi Wallace, figuring they could do better, pay him less money, and that the Bills might be able to do it and trump them.
That's the guy I'm rooting for. We got a big debate about it in the comments right now between Gilmore and Hayden. Mike Voigt saying if we can't afford Gilmore, then he doubts that we can afford Hayden. I don't know about that. I think Hayden's a little older than him, and I think especially with the history between Buffalo and Gilmore, I think Hayden would be more willing to come here because we're closer to a championship than probably a lot of other suitors that were out there. I know it's a business and it's all about winning. I still got a bad taste in my mouth about Gilmore. I hold grudges, and I know all the things that were said. I think there's a lot more to me. I don't know how many times I watched him blow coverage and look behind him in the end zone and throw his arms up, acting like he wasn't the one responsible, you know. I don't know how well, I guess I don't know if any of that's changed, and I don't know how well it would fit in this locker room. And, you know, if it got us a Super Bowl, then fine, you know. But I think I'd rather see a guy like Hayden in here. I think he's a little grittier. I think he'd play with a chip on his shoulder like he has his whole career, and it'd be more fun, I think. I just want Hayden.
He also played with Poyer. He had some time with Poyer, right?
In Cleveland, right?
So so there's that connection.
Sure.
Scott, what do you want, man?
What do I want? I don't want Gilmore. The talent is good, right? The talent's there. But I've always said it. You bring Gilmore back, he's not going to get away with those PIs and those defensive holding calls like he did everywhere else he went. This is Buffalo. They like to throw flags against us. I am with you, Swank, and some of the guys in the group here. Hayden comes from a Pittsburgh Steelers defense that primarily ran a 3 deep, which, if you guys don't know, it's a free safety drop in a third and both corners drop back. So he had a lot of drop back zone coverages. Buffalo does the cover too, and they can do a lot of man and zone out of that. And I think a 32-year-old veteran, 12 years experience, high quarterback awareness and IQ as far as a corner goes, I think that cover 2 defense with him just manning that right flank, I think that'll be perfect for him. I really do. In the zone defense, I do think that Hayden could probably thrive in our cover 2 defense. And we all saw what happens when someone gets beat over the top. Let's go back to that Wallace getting beaten, Hyde getting an interception in the playoffs. So I hate saying for the time being, but I think a presence like Joe Hayden would be perfect in Buffalo. I think with our safeties, Poyer and Hyde would be perfect for Hayden, Jackson, Sir Neal, and all them. I just think it would fit. And guys, I see a lot of the comments about being able to afford someone. $1.120 million. $1.120 million is the veteran's cost for anybody that has over 7 years experience. And the longer these guys go without being picked up, the more likely that they'll be signing that kind of contract. So it doesn't matter how much you think they cost. If they're not signing anywhere, they're going to sign somewhere eventually, and it's not going to be for that much money.
Great point, man. The longer it goes, the cheaper they get.
Where the hell did you pull that from? Did you pull that behind the Lawson jersey or the Wallace jersey? Gosh, man. I swear.
He was practicing that one in his mirror before the show, man.
Well, it's because they got Duke Johnson for the veterans contract, the lowest that cost, and that's the kind of money, and that's what happens when you have a team like the Buffalo Bills nowadays, is where they're one step away from making the Super Bowl.
It's a destination.
I'll take a 1-year deal to get a ring on my finger.
Sure.
So I'll take that $1.12 million. Hell yeah.
Joe Hayden turns 33 in April.
Yep. But you still convinced me. I wasn't around, obviously, to watch Gilmore, play for Buffalo, so I didn't see all that stuff. Yeah. But I believe you. So yeah, maybe he isn't the best fit. And so yeah, Hayden was a smart veteran, a guy that can fit a system. He might be 33 years old, but he can play in that zone. He's not going to have to necessarily run with a guy 50 yards down the field, singled up. And there are some fits that are out there, and I kind of trust them to maybe get somebody on that. Regardless of how well how much they think of their guys, Dane Jackson. And if Tre'Davious White comes back real strong, they need another guy.
That's the first round and second round. Nick, I don't know if you watch our draft show, but we do a pre-draft show every Sunday, Nick. We first week, and we still believe this, we pick someone else every week, but Swank and Jarrod even is on board for cornerback the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. In fact, I had my mock draft a couple of weeks ago. My first mock draft of the year, and I had them, going for cornerback in the first round. And I wrote then too that just like last year where they drafted back-to-back defensive ends, they could do the same thing.
Yep,
100%.
I don't know that they went into the draft, looking to do that. Maybe they had their eyes on somebody else. A lot of people thought maybe Travis Etienne. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Maybe
you got it.
Nailed it.
But he went early, and then thank God he did, right? Because he didn't play.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Guys, it doesn't matter what cornerback is out there, veteran, young guy. You know what's going to make that defensive backfield better is that amazing defensive line that Bean and McDermott brought into this 2022 season. Quarterback pressures, quarterback sacks, quarterback hurries, knockdowns, all that stuff makes the cornerback's life a lot easier.
And Hyde and Poyer do too.
Yep.
Yeah. I got to say, yeah, really, the pass rush was really the weak link last year because of the job, like you said, the safeties did. When the guys did get sacks, it was because they had time to get home.
Yeah.
And that had to do with the coverage. And this team wouldn't have had even the sacks that they did have, without that great secondary. And so they really do need to kind of get that together. And that's why they were searching. I mean, that's why they made a run at Watt last year, and why they went after Von Miller this year. And if you look at it, they put a big contract out there, but they needed him. It's something that they need, and it's essentially really more like a 3-year deal, not a 5. But whatever. It's a big cap hit even this year, and but they had to have it, and maybe they're still not done there. If there's a great interior pass rusher, they do have. They revamped everything inside, but they could still add to that. And we mentioned Gregory Rousseau just turned 22. He didn't play his last year of college. He's still he's just a pup. Yes. And maybe he's really becomes that guy. He started out on fire last year. He could be it. I mean,
oh yeah.
So I'm really anxious to see what he does in his second year, playing on the opposite side of Von Miller and Shaq Lawson being rotating in there, whatever. However they do it. But yeah, you're right. The defensive line should be better, and they should be better against the run too.
Not even just playing the opposite side, but the article you just shared to 24/7 Buff Pandemonium Group. The fact that Von Miller is there to educate and teach these guys how to do things is going to be a value that you really can't put a price tag on as well. So that's going to be something else.
And many forget about that. Thanks for bringing it up, Nick. Russo went a whole year without playing. So to come in from not playing a whole year into the NFL, not only is that a huge jump, but now you're 2 years out from playing. Yeah, now that he's got the experience and the training and all that stuff under his belt, watch out, Russo. Watch out.
Dan O'Gorman just came up with a point that I'd kind of forgot about. He only played 1 year at defensive end in college too, right?
Right.
So
was he tight end or wide receiver before?
Yeah, I don't know. He was a punter, I think.
He's not a punter. Get him over there.
Yeah, you got me a little riled up with that, Nick. I mean, it's really exciting. It's super exciting the way that they rebuilt, but it's like a throwback rebuild from 2 years ago, right? So you bring back some guys that were really great for the team, great for the community.
17 sacks worth.
Yeah, performed on the field. I think you shored up a better run-stopping defensive line, right, by bringing those guys back. And also, Von Miller and Shaq Lawson, I think Shaq's going to come in again with that chip on his shoulder, and he's going to want to show everybody what's up and what they've been missing. And this last year, just forget about it, Yeah. But I think
you guys talked about. Oh, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Have you guys talked about how I'm interested to see how they actually employ Von Miller here, because he's all his life he's been a stand-up 2-point stance outside linebacker. Well, they played this 4-2 here, he's going to be at the end in this system. I mean, they're going to list him as a linebacker so he can wear number 40 or whatever, but he's going to be the end. Now, is he going to put his hand on the ground? How are they going to do this? They're going to run like a 4-3 under or whatever. They allow him to move around. I don't know.
Just put him on the damn field.
Yeah, just put him out there. But he's been, it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for both sides.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And you said 4-3 under. For those of you that don't know what an under is or an over, it all depends on the Sam and Will linebacker. What it does is they'll shift one way, which will put one of those guys on the line. Basically, it's a 5-down lineman on the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I could see that happening. Who would be in the middle? Who would be the guy over the center then for you, Nick?
Yeah. No. You're talking about you're not talking about the linebacker. You're talking about the nose tackle. Yeah. Well, that's
Jordan Phillips.
That's a good question. Yeah, probably Phillips.
Man, that defensive line is going to be sick.
Yeah.
They're going to be rotating in too, so that's going to make it. He's getting a lot of money for seeing 65% of the plays. That's good. That's for sure.
I tell you, it's interesting, and I wonder if this defense, I mean, number one defense, it's been a top-rated defense for a lot of years with that one slump there 2 years ago or whatever. But I always get really jazzed up when I see all the D linemen kind of up, moving, motion. You know what I mean? When they're pumped up and they're standing up, maybe not just solid stance, but moving back and forth, it creates so much confusion and so much energy. I could see them like employing a little bit of that to kind of like disguise, like, okay, Von Miller's over here, he's up, he's not the traditional hand on the ground kind of defensive end that we're used to. But if you got people running around kind of doing that motion, that energy at the line, and then
yeah,
I just think it could be something creative that you haven't seen from Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott in a while. And I think that it might just stretch it to be way more educational for everybody on that line, right? Like, you got a bunch of people that have been playing in the same system for a long time, and then you got a veteran like Von Miller. I think, like, the playbook's wide open. You can do whatever
Leslie
you want.
Frazier's going like this.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice says, get your popcorn ready. Jerry Rice, I agree with you because guess what, guys? Swank, I like your take with them running around on the defensive line. Tua, 3rd year. Daniel Jones, 2nd year. Wilson, 2nd year. You're not only going to confuse that line, but that quarterback's not going to know what the hell he's doing. And the best way into the playoffs is to win your division. So
there you go.
Confuse the shit out of those quarterbacks.
Nick, I have a quick question for you really quick. I wanted to get on this guy before we left the cornerback talk. Kyle Fuller and Xavier Rhodes are going to be pricey. Stephon Gilmore is going to be pricey. We talked about Joe Hayden, but there's one guy that we skipped over on, Steven Nelson from the Eagles. He's a highly regarded cornerback. What's your take on him? I know he had a line that was not very good in front of him, so he had a lot of no time to react and stuff. But what's your take on Nelson?
I think he's as far as a scheme fit, pretty good fit there. I mean, the Eagles play pretty much that cover 2. They like to play that zone too. I don't know exactly what he played before the coming there, but they didn't do too bad last year, all things considered. The Eagles couldn't sack the quarterback. They're kind of like the Bills. They couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback, relatively speaking. And the defense still ended up holding up. For the most part, they won enough games. And Steven Nelson, would be a poorer man's Hayden or Gilmore, but I think he could maybe get the job done too. It's hard to say. I didn't see enough of them. I still kind of pay attention to the Eagles, but not as much. And
Right.
But just from a standpoint of a scheme fit, he would fit there.
Yep, similar defense, so he's not coming to anything too crazy of a difference other than he's got the 2 best safeties tandem in the background. But the Bills were actually interested in him last year too, so it'll be interesting. Yeah,
exactly. So he's right, and there's a lot of options out there. I think they're going to land one of these guys, and one of these guys is going to help. And that it could be Dane Jackson. I mean, he could just continue to progress, kind of like Levi Wallace. No, everybody thought, well, Levi Wallace is not going to win the job this year. He keeps winning the job. That could be Dane Jackson too. But in the meantime, they need another guy. And maybe because Tre'Davious, like we talked about, might not be ready to go, and they're going to get it. They're going to have to, and they're going to draft a cornerback too, at least one. Whether it's the first and second round or or both. In the first 2 days of the draft, they're going to come away with at least one cornerback.
Yeah,
I agree.
And
the draft is loaded with them. Yep.
Yeah,
draft is loaded.
I was just going to say they're really loaded with corners. Like it's almost like you can't. I shouldn't say this. I'm going to jinx it, but it's almost like you can't miss.
Yeah.
With 3 guys go off the board ahead of you, you're still got the 4th guy sitting there. That kind of thing.
Good thing, Nick, is we don't have Whaley having our picks this year. So,
and they're in a position where they could move up. And look, I keep thinking, based on listening to what Bean has been saying, that they could move down because he says the strength of the draft is in the second and third and the middle rounds. So maybe they could do that. But then I'm thinking if they do that, they're going to end up with more picks than they have. How many openings do they have on this team legitimately? So they get a bunch of rookies in there that they really like. They're not going to be able to protect too many of them on the practice squad because those guys will be poached. So, that's the problem there. So maybe if they, really, zeroed in on a cornerback that they really like, and it's coming down the stretch there in that first round, and they're right in the middle there at number 15, somebody's picking there, they might want to move up. And he's
give up a couple picks.
He hasn't been afraid to do it. Last year, he stayed put. That was like the first time he's done that, isn't it?
It's unlikely, right?
Yeah. So I think we break from that tradition then this year. And I think the more I think about it now, I think they might move up, and they might get a corner, or if something happens with Stephon Diggs, a wide receiver. But I don't think that's set.
Hey, Nick, I have some intel. You're ready for this?
Yep.
The Bills are going to give away their 2023 first-round pick to the Giants. They're going to swap picks, and the Bills are going to get Stingley or Gardner with the pick number 7. Don't tell anybody else.
Oh.
Did they do that before? Did they move up to get a number 7 pick before?
Pretty sure it was Allen.
Yeah. How about Stingley? How did he look? I know he worked out for the first time in like 3 years or whatever the other day, but he's okay.
He's okay. He's still. I actually have him on my board as number 2. I think Sauce Gardner or something else. He's a specimen in itself, and if they can land him, then I think he could potentially be just as effective as Trey White was his rookie year. So that would be crazy. But Booth, I think, coming all the way to us possibly. Trent McDuffie, Zaire Elam, like you said, it's loaded. There's a handful of corners that could fall to us in that 25th pick. Even if the Bills hold tight and they move up in the second, they could still land potentially 2 starters.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the draft is pretty much loaded all around. I mean, they have a lot of great edge rushers, by the way, in this draft too. And I know they just really, but they might do that. They could pluck one of those guys. I don't know where they're going to find a spot on the team for him, but they will. They'll figure it out. Yeah. And but you can't get enough of those guys. Like left-handed pitching, you can't get enough of it. And so they could do that. They could do receiver. I think they will do receiver at some point. And but yeah, at least one corner. More than one corner. And I think you were talking a little before we went on about quarterback. I don't know if they do draft a quarterback, it's going to be later, I believe. The developmental guy like Jake from State Farm type of guy.
Right. No.
Dana Gorham said Booth had small surgery. I think he had a hernia? Was that Scott?
Sports hernia. Sports hernia.
Very common.
Very common. Yep.
It's not like what's his name, Williams there, the wide receiver from Alabama. He had an ACL surgery, right?
Right, January.
A lot of people still think he's going to go high, and after that kind of surgery, I don't know. That's going to be interesting to watch.
He is definitely top 10 if he's healthy. In my book, big time talent. And if someone is willing to wait a year to get the talent that he potentially can offer, I can see that happening.
We got Patrick Hughes saying if Whaley was still our GM, he would have picked Josh Rosen instead of Allen in 2018. We got Dan O'Gorman asking a general question to the panel. Is running back weak? is the running back position weak on the Buffalo Bills?
Value. I said this Sunday. For $960,000 a year, we're paying Singletary. Right? He
4.6 yards a carry.
4.6 yards a carry, 870 yards rushing. He had 8 touchdowns, I think. He also had 50 targets and caught 40 of them, and he's ranked high in pass protection. We are good. I think bringing in Johnson, Duke, right? I think that's going to be a huge
Johnson, Duke. Is that the way you were doing that?
Yeah, because medical
last name first.
Advice. And Zach Moss, I don't know. He's still out there, but I think we are still good at running back. But you always have to pick one up in the draft anyway. So Devin Singletary's our guy. You just sit back and watch him. He's going to do something special this year, and it's not quality. No, sorry, it's not quantity. It's quality with our running backs.
I agree 100%. You know, sometimes it's tough for a running back to really be at his best if he's not getting the ball a lot. And you have something here with Singletary who can make the most out of 12 touches a game, whatever it may be, at least in the running game, and really do well. And he's done, you know, he responded from the year before. You know, he had basically lost his job to Moss, and then Moss got hurt. And Singletary really worked on redoing his body in the offseason, ball security. He really kind of got out of that whatever doghouse he was in, whoever's doghouse he was in. He's out of it, and they like him a lot. You know, will they draft a guy? I don't know, but I agree. I like the guy. I think he's a really good running back, fits their system. And like you said, I'm not sure about Moss where he fits in because Duke Johnson. I've always liked Duke Johnson. A really good kind of a mini Brian Westbrook light kind of when I covered the Eagles, but Duke Johnson's going to be really good fit in that passing game. Passing game, and he can protect the quarterback too. By the way,
oh yeah,
really good pass
yes
protector.
he can.
So that's really kind of huge. I think he's going to be a huge upgrade over Matt Breida. So right off the bat, they're better there, and you know, we'll see what happens down the road. But it's going to be interesting because they just how many running backs are they going to keep on this roster? Plus, they have the fullback, and so, you know, Taiwan. They just brought Taiwan back, so you know, there's not a lot of openings here. Maybe Zach Moss is on the bubble, but I can't see them keeping more than 4 running backs plus the fullback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right. Swank's.
I'm going to make my first. I'm going to make my first song reference. Nick said it. Bubble butt. Bubble 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 butt. Bubble. Anyway, sorry.
Anyways, okay.
See, this is what happens, Nick. One twin, they try a joke, it bombs. The next twin, an hour later, joke bombs.
Wait, my joke bombed?
Yeah, earlier, dude. I'm sorry. Like, I love you guys, but nah, just leave it to me. Just leave it to Dad.
Guys, if you watch the show, you will understand that we are all big advocates for Devin Singletary.
Yeah.
And if you think the Bills are going to go out and get someone and you expect 300 plus carries out of, it's not going to happen. I laugh at people and say, well, he doesn't have the yards. He does have the yards for the amount of carries he gets, and he's one of the top 5 pass blockers in the league. That's what we need. Moss, I don't know yet. That's why I have Pierre Strong. Go look at Pierre Strong's highlights, guys. I think he'll be drafted 4th or 5th round, but he's a 4.39 40 kind of guy, and he can bring something else to this offense if Moss can't cut it. If Moss can't cut it, I think this guy can definitely be an option in the draft. But Devin Singletary is the answer, and we said it on our pre-draft show, Swank. You know what? I'd rather have a running back that just touched the ball 150 times in the playoffs than 350 times before the playoffs even started. So, and we saw what happened. So Singletary all the way.
100%. And I think that he got a bum rap. We talked about this on Sunday. I think he got a bum rap because of the O-line play, you know, also because of the play calling. I think, you know, as much as Dable is responsible for a portion of the good, he's responsible for a portion of the bad, right? And I personally am really interested to see what Dorsey's going to do this year. And now that you have that O-line shored up, you know, and not really with a lot of like foreign pieces, you know, really you just added one guy and then you brought back a couple other guys that made the line better anyway, right? Bates, I don't know what it was when he came into the line last year. it just started to click, right? When they got Spencer Brown in the line, it got better. So now you have all these guys committed for the next 4 years. Well, minus Saffold or whatever. But, you know, who knows? Maybe he has another Pro Bowl year and maybe you put him on another year contract. Who knows? Or maybe you draft a guy and whatever. But the main point is to protect Josh Allen. Now you have a line that I think is more suitable to being consistent and opening lanes for Devin Singletary. And we all saw what happened when Motor got lanes opened up for him last year. He can find it. If you get him a hole, he'll hit it and he'll get you yards and he'll push guys 2 yards beyond that. So I think everybody needs to chill on Devin Singletary. If you have any questions about him, his heart is right there. He's committed to changing his body for this team. He's committed to whatever role they want him to be in. He's been nothing but a stand-up guy and a performer. So leave Devin alone. But Zach Moss, I don't know. I don't know. I want him to be good. I want him to be that bruiser, short yardage back. But I think in that situation, they'd rather risk their $250 million quarterback in that situation than put the ball in Zach Moss's hands. And that is a hard pill to swallow. You want that big guy that's got sure hands to get you those 2 yards.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, look, you mentioned before about the last time Cromer was the offensive line coach here, the Bills led the league in running. Well, in rushing, they're not going to do that. You know, they're not going to be a high volume running team like they were with Shady McCoy, you know, but they could be just as effective, if not more, you know, running less and enjoying it more, as they say.
Quality. Yes.
Balance. That was the bad word, the trigger word from last year, right? More balance.
How dare you?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more running, which I don't think anybody would be afraid to see. Take the pressure off of Josh Allen and, you know, don't have the ball in his hands at every play, you know, because, you know, at some point, you know, he's going to reach the point of no return.
Yeah.
And I would be more concerned about him actually getting hurt in the pocket rather than taking off when he can see what he's hitting. He's not really going to get hit.
Right. Yeah.
He's not going to get knocked out with a hit. But, you know, it's a cumulative thing. I can't pronounce that word. So
welcome to my club, Nick.
Yeah. And so, you know, you just want to kind of, you know, maybe run the ball a little bit more, a few more times a game, just to change things up. And it's not going to make him any less effective. It might make him even more, you know, and I don't know. And maybe have him run a few times less per game. You don't want to take the ball out of his hands. And, you know, let's face it, he's the kind of guy where he's more dangerous when the play breaks down than when it goes as planned.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. And so that's great. When stuff happens, hey, improvise, do what you have to do. But the planned runs, those runs, man, maybe they can get away with, you know, handing the ball to Motor a couple more times a game. And, you know, if the line is buttoned up a little bit better.
Nick, and I think that's going to happen. That was a Dable-style offense. I think Ken Dorsey, being a quarterback, he probably understands that I don't want to get hit more than I have to. Yep. And with bringing in Howard and bringing in Saffold, who's known for his running offense skills, I think that's the plan. But we shall see.
Yeah. Just increase it. And it's the quality of the runs, like I've said before. But the fact that the matter is, when you're sitting in the pocket, as you said, Nick, the injuries are going to be there, and you have no choice in those. You know, you're standing in the pocket, you're vulnerable, right? When you're running out, you can see the field more, you can see it happening. It's in your control a little bit more when you're running around and doing what you have to do outside the pocket than when you are sitting in the pocket. And having a higher quality run game is just going to make Josh Allen that much more dangerous. So if we see it was a 60-40 last year, if it's 58-42 this year with quality runs, it's going to be a scary offense.
Just following the Eagles all those years, Randall Cunningham, he was the first of his kind, pretty much. Hurt in the pocket. Never really the same after that until he got to Minnesota when he was 75 years old. He had kind of a second career, but that was different.
Yeah.
Michael Vick, he got hit. I got to tell you, like I've never seen an athlete like him. Maybe Josh Allen gets there, but to this day, I still think Michael Vick's is the greatest physical specimen to ever play quarterback. But he got hurt in the pocket. The Eagles won that game, if you remember that Miracle in the Meadowlands too, when Deshaun Jackson turned sideways and they scored. Yep. You're thinking everybody in that building. We were thinking the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. That was with the 2 games to go in the regular season. Instead, they never won another game, and part of it was because the next week, Vic got dinged against the Vikings in that stupid Tuesday night game that they had to play because of the snowstorm that pushed it, and he wasn't the same. They went into the playoffs and they lost to the eventual Super Bowl champs Green Bay because they got a poor draw there because Green Bay was a wild card team because Aaron Rodgers was hurt most of the year. They didn't win until the end and they barely snuck in. They ended up winning Super Bowl. The Eagles lost by 5 points to when their field goal kicker missed 2 field goals. So that's how it goes. And Vic was never the same after that. These quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks, when they're in the pocket, they're more. I've seen it. They're just way more susceptible. Now it wasn't that way with Donovan. He got hurt, but he got hurt another way. His first major injury was on a tarp on the sideline, which I hate. I think teams need to take that. The NFL needs to make that rule. It's more than any kind of rule with concussions, helmets, all this stuff. Taking the headshots out of the game. Take those tarps off the sideline. You get killed on those sidelines. You're running full speed, and then you hit that tarp, and your knee goes one way, your body goes another.
Yep.
Get them out of there. But
I was at Bill's training camp when
I want these guys. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. Just real quick, I was saying I was at Bill's training camp at St. John Fisher when Kevin Kolb hit one of those tarps, and he was supposed to be the guy for that season, and he wrecked his knee, and he never played for us ever. Yep. So I 100% agree, and that was just at training camp,
Yeah, the Eagles eventually got rid of the tarp. They actually have artificial turf now on the sidelines. It's still a grass field, but at least you're going from one surface. You're not going. It's a better transition when you go out of there.
For sure.
And they had to do it that way. I mean, the NFL needs to stop that. I still see it in certain stadiums. You can't have it. That's the worst safety thing. But anyway, we kind of get off track. These mobile
That's what we loved going off track on here. Don't worry about it.
Mobile quarterbacks, to me, they're more susceptible when they're in the pocket than they are when they can see what they're hitting.
They're comfortable outside.
Great point.
Yep.
Great point.
We lost a mobile quarterback that way. E.J. Manuel, he was outside the pocket when he got hurt, though. And then RG3 actually would, if he never got injured, and if Dan Reeves, if he would have played that quarterback right, RG3 would have been something in the NFL, but they really screwed that up. And then here's Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. And by the way, that Eagles collapse in 2010, I talked about with Michael Vick, and then they didn't win another game. They lost 21-16 to the Packers in the playoffs. That was McDermott's last game as defensive coordinator. He got fired after that. They lost a low-scoring game to an offensive juggernaut, and McDermott was out of there.
Wow.
I'm happy for that.
Yeah. I mean, now down the road when I can see it, I'm glad it happened. I wish it would have happened earlier, to be honest. That's
all
crazy.
Right, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry, really fast. So I've always been curious, and since you're an Eagles head here, is there really any beef between McDermott and Andy Reid? Like, is there any bad blood? Do you know anything about this? Like, I know that there's a lot of stuff that's been said, and they've always had like very PC kind of like answers to this. Like, Andy let him go so that he could go pursue other pursuits. But was it really like, is there anything insider that's like there was bad blood there?
No, I don't believe so. I think that Andy did what he did. I don't think it was because they lost to the Packers in that game.
Yeah.
There was stuff going on there, and I guess he felt like he had to get rid of him. Maybe it was the wrong decision. But I will say this, that Andy, even at the time, and McDermott there were other teams interested in McDermott other than Carolina. I guess
Sure.
Denver wanted to hire him. But Andy made some calls to get him placed. It wasn't like, hey, you're out of here. And if there was really bad blood, Andy would not have picked up that phone and called Ron Rivera. Or he would not have done that, and he did. And so maybe there was a little friction at the time, but it's been smoothed over. And I would think that I don't know. Do you remember? I think it has a lot to do sometimes uh, with things that we'll never find out that are behind the scenes. And I remember like when Bruce Arians was kind of out in Pittsburgh. It was I remember that like maybe he didn't get along with Tomlin.
Yeah.
Well, when I went to the owners' meetings about 5 years ago, um, they were sitting in the hotel bar together for like 5 hours, the whole day. I'm thinking, well, I guess they get along pretty well. Pretty much Tomlin forced them out, but we don't know why, and we don't know. And I think that I just is my take on it, and from having talked to members of McDermott's family too, who live like a mile away from me here. But I don't think that there's any friction there. There's some stuff happened there that probably needed to happen, and so now that there's no bad blood left. Could be wrong. I don't think so.
That's what I was hoping the answer was, because I just, he came from that tree. There seems to be such a respect from both sides. Like, I mean, Andy Reid, obviously a great mind, but Sean McDermott, coming from where he came into Buffalo, he's owned that position ever since he walked into the door. I mean, learning every staff's name down to the concession stands, building that culture with the family element, just really responsible for making Buffalo what it is right now as a destination and a Super Bowl contender. And when I always heard those stories, and there's always that, like, behind the curtain kind of thing going on, and I was like, man, I really hope that these are just two football guys, and business is business, and it just happened the way it happened, and Sean went his way and Andy went his way. So I was told by some Eagles people, we still have time, that the main reason here was because McDermott was he comes from a wrestling background. He believes in working all the time, 24/7, and he kind of pushed his players to do the same, and maybe went overboard. Oh, okay.
Some of the players were kind of burned out maybe by his tactics, and Andy had to make a change there. But it had nothing to do with we don't get along, or his strategy, or you called the wrong blitz at the wrong time, or any of that. I just think it was kind of that, and he needed to kind of reset himself and go be a coordinator somewhere else and learn under a guy who maybe had a different style, and that's what he did. And I think it worked out well for both parties.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed that last 7-8 minutes, guys. Swank, I don't want to swear, that was a great question. And Nick, the insight you just fed everybody was just phenomenal, man. Thank you. Before we head out for tonight, I just want to do one more segment, and we're gonna grade Beans free agency right now, even though it's not over. I want to see what everybody thinks the grades are. Fandemonium, let us know what your grade is for Beans free agency right now. Scott, we'll lead with you. What's your grade for Bean? You muted.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, there it is.
No. I give him a B+. And I would give him an A+ if he picks someone in from the cornerback position. So that's my only. I give him a full grade below. But we needed interior defensive line help. We bettered our interior defensive line. We needed offensive line help because Feliciano, I don't think, was the same after his injury and COVID and all that stuff. And we upgraded with Saffold. And not only that, but we were able to find a way to bring Bakker back and Ryan Bates back. I believe that as a strategy that the Bills take for the third down running back is to go year by year, because that's the cheapest way to do it. And they seem to continue to bring in. I thought Burrito was a good pickup last year, even though his numbers didn't prove it. And I think Duke Johnson is a wonderful pickup this year. And I think the numbers will prove it, because I think he's a specimen at the third down back, and the guy still has the talent. So B+. I give him a B+, only because I would like to see him do something with the cornerback, but we're not done yet, like we said.
Yeah, and for that reason, I'm giving him an A+. Swank, what's your grade?
Why did you guys decide to do letter grades? I was thinking like collegiate, like I was going to do 4, 4.0, 4.0. Yeah.
Oh, okay. 4.3? 4.3?
Yeah. No, man, I'd say that A. I think he did things this free agent. He's done something every year that you're like, I didn't know we could do that. Like literally every year since he's been here, you look at this guy and you're like, how did you pull that off? And this year, Von Miller, man, who even thought? Nobody except for you, Jarrod. Sorry, Jarrod mentioned it one time randomly, and we were like, no way, he's re-signing with the Rams, whatever. It just seemed like he was on nobody's radar, and then all of a sudden he's a Buffalo Bill, and it was insane, and it was a huge need, and everybody thought they were chasing Chandler Jones to the ends of the earth, and it was Von Miller, and it's like I like Von Miller way more. Like I mean, Chandler Jones is a beast, but I love his attitude. I love what he can do. I've even if he was on a team. I mean, the Tyrod thing. Remember that? Remember when he hit Tyrod Taylor, and he reached down like he was gonna pick him up, and then he like faked him out, and they were both laughing about it, and he got a personal foul for it. So it's like, and then Tyrod's laughing. Whatever. It was just like, I don't know. He's a fun dude. He's a winner. He's a physical specimen. I mean, him alone gets that free agency up to a B+. And then you look at everything else they did between, I mean, not just the guys they brought in, but the guys they re-signed. You know, Bates and Bodiger, like, nobody thought he was going to sign both of those guys back. I thought for sure when they got Bodiger, like, it was like, well, Ryan Bates is gone. He's going to get matched out in Chicago, and that'll be it. And then they bring him back. And I don't know, man. He's a wizard. So so far, and I think the cornerback is going to get addressed one more time here in free agency and then draft, and I can't wait, man.
Swank, thanks for bringing up Miller. Buffalo.
Yeah. and Swank, thanks for bringing up Miller. There's a nice little 18-20 minute video out there of Von Miller through the whole series of him getting the phone calls from his agents and all that stuff. And, you know, he brought up a couple times he was supposed to be a Buffalo Bill guy because in 2011 they were going to draft at third. They got Marcel Darius, and the Denver Broncos took Von Miller. So he said he studied up on Buffalo. He understood what Buffalo was all about. He was prepared to come to Buffalo, and it just didn't happen. It's funny how things circle themselves, circle of life, or, you know, circle the wagons, as they say. He's a Buffalo Bill now, and that may just give him an A+. Let's just be an A+. I said B+. Von Miller turns into an A+.
Listen,
I'm gonna say A for myself, and I was kind of leaning that way even before the Miller signing because I believe that had they not signed Von Miller, they would at least have that cornerback taken care of by now, and I think that just kind of put the cornerback on hold, but I still think he's going to find a way. Mm-hmm. But even if he doesn't, I really like what he's done so far.
Absolutely.
Great minds here, the four of us, man, I tell you. Pandemonium, thank you for participating. I don't know if you guys look down every once in a while, but that conversation was just going crazy. People are going back and forth, and that's what we absolutely love about this. We're going to do our closing thoughts really quick before we end the night. Scott, I'm going to let you lead the way. Closing thoughts for this Tuesday night.
All right, I'm going to start with the big conversation right now is the Diggs conversation. If you take the media out of it, I think we're fine. Media likes to blow things up, and then once the media blows things up, the fans blow things up. And I think it got a little out of control. We all know how Bean, we like to think that we know that Bean keeps an open conversation, keeps everything transparent with these guys. And that's what makes some of these players not sign right away. They wait, and all of a sudden they sign a great contract. So Bean's got that open conversation with Diggs. Diggs has some tweets out there, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they're anything. I think they know exactly what's going on. I think we're okay. Media stop blowing things up. We'll be just fine. And you like this shirt?
I like the top of it.
All right, that's the 24/7 Buff Pandemonium shirt. We got a black one too. We're actually doing a wholesale sellout. $10 a piece for these guys, and we'll tell you the prices, the sizes that we have left over. And the Notorious Diggs are $15 now. The reason it's $5 more is because we're going to give $5 to the American Heart Association for every shirt that you buy of that. I will put out a post tomorrow with the sizes that remain. But $10 for this, $10 for the black and white ones, $15 for the Notorious.
Nick, quick, before I get to your closing thoughts, I have to ask, with your wings, is it blue cheese or ranch dressing?
Oh, my God. Well, for me, it would be neither, but if I had to pick one, it'd be ranch. I hate blue cheese. Absolutely.
Patrick Hughes was asking.
Hey, look at the
would go- I
time.
would go with like a barbecue type of a, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't put. I'd go with something else. But gun to my head, and I only had those 2 picks. I would take the bullet before the blue cheese, but I would take the ranch before the bullet.
Which a lot of Buffalo Bills fans would also say, if it's a good wing, you don't need any sauce. So, Nick, that's a good answer. Nick, what's your closing thoughts for tonight?
I think that the Bills, maybe some of the players need to have that thing addressed, those 13 seconds addressed. And at some point, I think Sean McDermott's got to get that team together and maybe go over that, to talk over. No, he seemed to indicate, but by saying that, we handled it the right way by taking the high road, that there was some kind of malfunction there that probably wasn't his fault, miscommunication, whatever it was, but it still falls on the head coach. That needs to be addressed, but I think that I still think that the team's going to be able to put it behind them. Sometimes teams can't get over something like that. It's going to be interesting. I think that they've done enough here to build momentum, off-season moves, and getting people excited. Players excited like Von Miller to come in here and win a Super Bowl, that they can put that behind them. But that kind of lingers for me. And like I said before we came on, another thing that lingers for me is that peel back block from 3 years ago, which was the worst call in NFL history. And it cost the Bills a chance basically they would have won their first road playoff game under McDermott, something they still haven't done. Yeah. But I still think that they'll get over just like they did the peel back block. That's it.
Absolutely. That's a great take, Nick. Who has that? Patrick Hughes. We want to know what you take, ranch or blue cheese. Swank, what's your closing thought?
Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Please feel free to come back if you'd like anytime. You've been a great guest. Everybody's enjoyed you. Your insights have been amazing. We love reading your articles. So thank you so much for being a part of tonight. 24/7. Listen up, man. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. for this show right here, the K-Gung Report. And we have great guests like this guy right here, Mr. Nick Fiero. I mean, we're doing big things. We also got this draft show right over here. The night of the draft, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're going the wrong way, Jarrod.
I pointed both ways.
There you go. Just do that. Yeah. We're going to have live coverage for 4 hours-ish, probably more. We're going to, be eating wings and talking junk about other teams and going over picks, and it's a great time. We take phone calls. Nick, if you feel like calling in, please do. It'd be a great time. So please tune into that. We also have been doing our Scott and Swank pre-draft show every Sunday morning at 11 a.m., and that's been real fun. We put out different scenarios of if the Bills choose this position group, what would they pick in the first round, and then kind of jaw on that for a little while. So do all that stuff at Swank 24/7BF on Twitter. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Hey, we had a great night. Fandemonium, like I said, participated well. Nick, you were absolutely amazing. And like Swank said, we hope you want to come back and conversate with us a little bit more about Buffalo Bills football. Maybe after the draft, we could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. Anytime, guys.
So Sunday sessions will be back on. Scott's going to have another draft pick picked out. It's not necessarily – are we going to tell what you're going after? Cornerback?
We're trading up. We're trading up this week.
All right. Stay tuned
episode?
for Sunday sessions to see who Scott trades up for. Man, this night was awesome. I can't wait to do it again next Tuesday. Until then, be safe, and root on the Buffalo Bills to see what happens in the next week. Hopefully a CB's picked up. But until then, we'll see you next week, Tuesday. As always, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
This is a dangerous